So my coworker walks up to me on a Monday morning, coffee in hand, completely defeated. He says, "Dude, I spent my entire Sunday trying to pick a TV. I have 47 browser tabs open. I don't know what I'm buying. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore." And I completely understood him because I did the exact same thing last year. Here's the problem nobody talks about. There are now so many TVs on the market, across so many brands, so many model tiers, so many retailer-exclusive variants, that shopping for a TV in 2026 has become genuinely exhausting. And the worst part? A lot of the information out there is either outdated, sponsored, or just completely wrong. So I spent 2 weeks going deep. I went through professional measurement data, I talked to people who actually work in electronics retail, I tracked real price histories, not promotional fake discounts, but actual measurable price changes over months. I called manufacturer support lines and pushed until I got real answers. And what I built is this, a definitive ranked list of 12 TVs, from the ones you should absolutely avoid right now, all the way up to the single best TV you can buy in 2026, regardless of your budget. This isn't a list of TVs that paid to be here. There are no sponsors on this channel. Every ranking is based on real data, real prices, and real performance measurements. If you're new here, subscribe. I make these videos to cut through the noise so you can make smarter buying decisions without wasting a weekend. Hit that like button if you find this useful. It genuinely helps more people find this video who need it right now. And drop a comment below. What TV are you currently using? And what's making you consider upgrading? I read every single one. All current prices and links for every TV I mentioned today are updated in the description below. I keep those current so you're never looking at stale numbers. Let's get into it.
Number 12, Vizio V-Series 65-inch. Why it's at the bottom? I don't enjoy putting anything at number 12, but someone has to be here, and the Vizio V-Series earns it in 2026. Let me be clear, this TV isn't broken. It will turn on. It will show you a picture. It connects to Netflix. But when you look at what else is available at prices not dramatically higher, the V-Series becomes very hard to justify. The panel is a basic edge-lit LED with minimal local dimming zones. What that means in practice? When a dark scene plays on screen, you'll see a gray haze where blacks should be pure black. Bright highlights bloom and bleed. There's no real depth to the image. I talked to my friend Greg. He's a home theater hobbyist who's been building setups for 15 years. He looked at a V-Series at a big box store recently and told me, "It looks fine until you've seen something better. Then you can't unsee what's missing." In 2020, you might have accepted this at $380. In 2026, with what TCL and Hisense are now offering at $700 and $800, there's almost no scenario where the V-Series represents your best option. You can spend $300 more and get a fundamentally different viewing experience. If $380 is your absolute ceiling, I understand. But if you can stretch at all, stretch. Number 11. Samsung TU690T 65-inch. The safe brand trap. Here's where people get hurt. They walk into a store, they see the Samsung logo, they feel reassured, they buy the TU690T because Samsung makes great TVs. And they do. Some Samsung TVs are extraordinary. This is not one of them. The TU690T is Samsung's entry-level offering, and it shows. The panel is a basic LCD with edge lighting. The Smart TV interface, Tizen, is genuinely good and user-friendly, which is the highlight. The processing is fine. The HDR support is technically present, but practically ineffective because the peak brightness doesn't get high enough to make HDR content pop the way it's supposed to. The reason this is number 11 instead of dead last is the software experience. Samsung's Tizen platform is responsive, well-organized, and supports essentially every streaming service. If someone who isn't tech-savvy is buying their first smart TV and ease of use is the primary priority, this is more polished than anything Vizio offers. But picture quality in 2026? You're leaving a lot on the table for the Samsung brand name. My neighbor bought this for his guest bedroom last year, and he told me straight, I'm glad it's in the guest room and not the living room. That tells you everything. Number 10, LG UR8000. Better than it looks, not better than it should be. The LG UR8000 occupies an awkward position in the market. It's better than the Samsung and Vizio entries below it. The WebOS smart platform is one of the best in the industry, genuinely intuitive and beautifully designed. LG's color science, even at this tier, is noticeably better calibrated out of the box than most competitors. But the panel itself is still basic LED without meaningful local dimming. You're paying partly for the LG brand, partly for the WebOS experience, and partly for a picture that's competent but not exciting. Where this TV earns its number 10 slot is in two specific scenarios: bedroom use in a room where you watch in lower ambient light but don't need reference-level picture quality, and as a secondary TV for someone who already knows and loves the LG ecosystem and wants consistency across devices. The WebOS interface is fast, the streaming app library is complete, and voice control integration is polished. As a smart TV platform, few manufacturers do it better than LG at any price point. But if picture quality is your primary reason for buying, there are better options at similar or only slightly higher prices. Which brings us to what starts happening at the 8 and 9 spots.
Number 9. Sony X77L 65-inch, the Sony Premium with entry-level hardware. Sony occupies a unique position in the TV market. They charge a Sony Premium at every tier, and at the top tiers, that premium is completely justified because Sony's processing and image quality are genuinely in a class of their own. At the entry level, it's more complicated. The X77L has Sony's processor inside, and that matters more than people realize. Sony's XR cognitive processor consistently produces more natural, film-like motion and color rendering than competitors using equivalent panels. Side by side with an LG or Samsung panel at the same tier, the Sony often looks more cinematic, even if the hardware specs are nearly identical on paper. The honest downside, at $750, you're paying a $150 to $200 premium over competitors with similar hardware specifically for Sony's processing and brand positioning. For some people, that's worth it. For many people, the money is better put toward a higher tier panel from another brand. I had a conversation with a filmmaker friend. She shoots documentaries for a living and is extremely particular about color accuracy. She told me Sony's processing makes colors look like they were intended to look. It's less engineered, more natural. She wouldn't buy any other brand. For her use case, the Sony Premium makes total sense. If you're deeply invested in Sony's ecosystem, or if natural and cinematic picture processing matters more than raw brightness and contrast, the X77L is a legitimate consideration. For everyone else, the value math starts to favor other options above this price.
Number 8. Hisense A7N 65-inch, the surprise performer nobody talks about. A year ago, I would not have had a Hisense this high on any list. The brand spent years building a reputation as the discount option, the TV you bought when you couldn't afford anything else. That reputation no longer reflects the product. The A7N isn't Hisense's flagship. It's a mid-range LED panel with QLED color enhancement and a local dimming system that, while not in the same conversation as their U8N flagship, produces noticeably better contrast and black levels than the entry-level TVs lower on this list. At $600, the A7N offers something genuinely impressive: the brightness and color volume to handle a room with moderate ambient light, a responsive smart TV platform, and a build quality that has improved substantially from what Hisense was selling 3 years ago. My cousin's wife picked one up for their kitchen TV. They wanted something large enough to watch cooking content and sports from across the room, but didn't want to spend flagship money on a space that gets heavy traffic in moderate use. She told me it looked better than she expected, and she's had zero issues in the 5 months she's owned it. If your budget is firmly under $700 and you need a reliable main TV, not a dedicated cinema room setup, this is your starting point for a real conversation. Number 7. TCL S-Class 65-inch. More TV than it has any right to be. TCL has been on a run for the past several years, and the S-Class continues that trajectory. At $700, you're getting into Mini-LED territory, which means instead of a few LED zones lighting the entire panel from the edges, you have hundreds of smaller LEDs organized into zones that can individually dim or brighten. The practical result of Mini-LED at this price point is meaningful. Contrast that's noticeably better than standard LED TVs, highlights that actually pop in HDR content, and shadow detail that standard LED panels simply can't achieve. The TCL S-Class isn't flawless. The local dimming can occasionally produce haloing, a subtle glow around bright objects on dark backgrounds in scenes with extreme contrast. It's a limitation of Mini-LED technology at this tier, rather than a flaw specific to TCL. But for $700, you're watching a fundamentally different quality of image than anything below this on the list. Sports look genuinely good. Action movies in a moderately lit room look impressive. The color volume is much closer to what the content creators intended than entry-level panels can deliver. My friend Marcus, who I mentioned, was seriously considering this before he moved up to the QM8. He told me, if the QM8 hadn't dropped in price when it did, I would have been completely satisfied with this. That's a strong endorsement.
Number 6. Samsung QN85C QLED 65-inch. When Samsung gets it right. Now we're getting into territory where every TV on this list earns its place. The Samsung QN85C is where the Samsung experience shifts from brand premium for average hardware to brand premium for hardware that actually justifies it. The QN85C uses Samsung's Neo QLED Mini-LED panel with a QLED color filter layer on top. What that combination delivers in practice? Extraordinary brightness. This thing gets genuinely, aggressively, impressively bright. And Samsung's signature punchy, vivid color profile that a lot of people find deeply satisfying for sports and content with rich, saturated visuals. The local dimming on this panel is significantly more refined than lower-tier Samsung entries. Haloing is minimal. The HDR performance is excellent for the price, and the Tizen Smart TV platform, which has always been one of Samsung's consistent strengths, is responsive and well-supported here. The honest caveat? Samsung's color tuning is engineered to pop in bright showrooms and impress on first glance. Out of the box, it may look oversaturated compared to a Sony or LG. If you're a calibration-oriented buyer who wants accuracy, you'll need to spend time in the picture settings or pay for a professional calibration. But if you want a TV that looks incredible for sports, gaming, and everyday entertainment in a moderately bright room, and you want it from a brand with solid long-term software support, the QN85C at $1,100 is a serious contender. Number 5. Sony X95L Mini-LED 65-inch. The Bright Room Champion. I want to say something about Sony that I think gets lost in TV discussions. Sony doesn't make a bad TV. At any tier, their worst TV is still better than most brands' average. At their top tiers, they're doing things with image processing that other manufacturers haven't fully replicated. The X95L is Sony's Mini-LED flagship, and it earns a top 5 ranking because of 2 things it does better than almost any other TV at any price: brightness and image processing. In terms of raw brightness, the X95L puts out numbers that make most TVs look dim. For rooms with significant natural light, big windows, south-facing exposure, afternoon sun that absolutely washes out an OLED panel, this TV is specifically engineered to solve that problem. HDR highlights are vivid and intense even in challenging lighting conditions. Sony's XR cognitive processor, which powers the X95L, does something that's genuinely difficult to explain in specs alone. It makes content look more like how you'd experience it in real life, rather than how a camera captured it. Motion handling is exceptional. The soap opera effect that plagues a lot of motion processing is avoided while still delivering smooth, artifact-free movement. Film grain is preserved rather than smoothed away. My friend David runs a small home theater setup that pulls triple duty as his gaming space, movie room, and Sunday sports hangout. He picked up the X95L 6 months ago. He told me, "Every single person who comes over and watches anything on this TV asks me what it is, without exception." The reason it's not higher is the price. At $1,600, you're in a range where OLED options exist, and for darkroom cinephiles, OLED still does something Mini-LED can't fully replicate. But for bright room situations, this is the recommendation. Number 4. TCL QM8 Mini-LED 65. The deal that shouldn't be possible. I spent more time staring at the TCL QM8 spec sheet versus its price tag than any other TV on this list, because I kept expecting to find a hidden flaw that explained why it was available for $300 to $500 less than TVs with comparable specifications. 3 months ago, it was $1,700. Right now, it's $1,100. That $600 price drop is real, tracked, measurable, not a promotional illusion. And what you're getting at $1,100 is a Mini-LED television with brightness numbers that rival TVs costing twice as much. The QM8 uses a high-density Mini-LED array with a substantial number of local dimming zones. The result is contrast performance that genuinely competes with TVs in the $1,500 to $1,800 range. Brightness in peak HDR moments is exceptional, one of the highest performing non-OLED panels you can buy today for anywhere near this price. The Smart TV platform runs Google TV, which is one of the best operating systems in the space right now, well-organized, excellent recommendation algorithms, and continuously improving with software updates. The honest limitation? Like the Sony X95L, the QM8 can produce some haloing in scenes with extreme contrast, tiny bright objects on pure black backgrounds. This is a characteristic of Mini-LED technology generally at this tier. For the vast majority of content most people watch, sports, movies, streaming series, it's either invisible or completely acceptable. For pure value delivery, specs per dollar, the QM8 at $1,100 is arguably the strongest value proposition on this entire list. My cousin bought it, and I still remember his exact text. "I feel like I robbed someone." That's a QM8 review. Number 3. Hisense U8N Mini-LED 65. The smartest buy in the market right now. Alright, if you've been watching this list wondering when Hisense would show up in a major way, this is it. The U8N is Hisense's flagship Mini-LED television. In November, it was $1,400. It is currently selling for $850 to $900 depending on where you look. That is a $500 drop in roughly 3 months on a television that professional calibration-grade reviewers, people who measure brightness with instruments, not eyes, consistently rate as performing at a level you'd expect from TVs in the $1,300 to $1,500 range. The U8N's brightness output is genuinely remarkable. In real-world HDR testing, it competes with or beats TVs from brands charging significantly more. For sports in a bright room, for action movies with explosive HDR moments, for gaming in an environment with ambient light, the U8N's brightness is a weapon. Hisense's ULED processing has matured substantially. Color accuracy is calibrated well out of the box, the local dimming system has been refined over previous generations, and the Google TV platform provides a streaming experience that's polished and responsive. Is it perfect? No. At the very edges of the panel, there's mild brightness fall-off that calibration-oriented buyers will notice. Black levels, while excellent for a Mini-LED, don't reach what OLED achieves. These are inherent Mini-LED trade-offs, not unique U8N failures. But at $900, the conversation changes. You're getting flagship Mini-LED performance at a price point that was mid-range a year ago. The U8N at $900 is one of those moments in the TV market where timing, genuine product quality, and aggressive discounting all collide at once. I keep recommending this to almost everyone who has a bright room or watches sports as a priority. It's that good for that price right now.
Number 2. Samsung S95F OLED 65-inch. The best OLED Samsung has ever made. We're into OLED territory now, which means the conversation fundamentally changes. OLED means every pixel generates its own light independently. There is no backlight. There is no array of LEDs behind the panel. Each individual pixel can turn completely off, producing true absolute black. The contrast ratio of an OLED panel is technically infinite. You cannot achieve this with any LED-based technology. Samsung's S95F uses a QD-OLED panel, a quantum dot layer on top of an OLED base. What that combination does is push color volume beyond what traditional OLED achieves. You get OLED's perfect blacks and per-pixel control combined with brightness and color saturation levels that close the gap between OLED and Mini-LEDs significantly. In October, the S95F was $2,800. It's now at $1,900 at multiple major retailers. That $900 drop puts one of the best screens ever manufactured within reach of a buyer who previously would have had to settle for something significantly less impressive. For dark room movie watching, there is nothing in this price range that competes with what the S95F delivers. The HDR experience, where deep, true blacks exist in the same frame as brilliant, color-saturated highlights, is genuinely cinematic. It's the closest thing to watching a high-quality IMAX presentation in your living room. My friend Ashley, graphic designer, extremely particular about color reproduction, bought the S95F 2 months ago. She told me she watched her first Dolby Vision movie on it, sat completely still for 10 minutes after it ended, and then texted me, "I don't know how I watched anything on my old TV. This is embarrassing." The reason it's number 2 and not number 1 is the price. At $1,900, you need to be the right buyer. Primarily dark room viewing, primarily cinematic content, and a budget that accommodates it. For those buyers, this might actually be the right answer over number 1. It's that close. Number 1. LG C5 OLED 65. The best all-around TV you can buy right now. The LG C-Series OLED has been at or near the top of every serious TV ranking for the past 4 years. The C5 continues that tradition and earns the number 1 spot not because it's better than the Samsung S95F in every specific category, it isn't, but because of something more important. It's the best television for the broadest range of buyers and the broadest range of content. Here's what the C5 does at the highest level simultaneously. Movies, gaming, sports, bright content, dark content, everyday streaming, cable, sports bars worth of simultaneous visual complexity, and it handles all of it with reference quality picture. For gaming specifically, the C5 is in an elite category. It supports 4K at 120 Hz with variable refresh rate for buttery smooth gaming with no tearing or stuttering. Input lag is measured in single-digit milliseconds, lower than almost anything else in this price range. OLED's per-pixel control means game environments have depth and shadow detail that Mini-LED panels can't fully replicate. The gaming experience on an LG OLED is genuinely different from what most people have experienced. LG's Web OS platform is the single best smart TV operating system on the market. It's fast, it's organized, it handles every major streaming service elegantly, and LG has a track record of providing meaningful software updates that keep the platform fresh over the years you'll own this TV. The burn-in concern that's followed OLED for years, the risk of static image retention from channel logos or news tickers, has been substantially addressed through panel improvements and smart management features that LG has built into every C-Series since the C2. Real-world burn-in reports from actual long-term users are rare enough that for most viewing patterns, it's not a practical concern. Was $2,200 in November, now $1,700 to $1,800 depending on where you buy. That $400 to $500 drop on a TV that's this good is a real opportunity.
My roommate Jake, heavy PlayStation gamer, also uses it for movies and sports, picked up the C5 2 weeks ago. He told me, "I tried to find something wrong with it. I couldn't. It's just better than everything I've owned before. Gaming, movies, sports, everything. That's the C5."
Look, I started this video by telling you about Derek and his 47 browser tabs. Here's what I hope you have now that you didn't have before you watched this. Not just a list, but a framework, a way of thinking about what actually matters, what's marketing noise, and what the market is actually doing right now. The best TV for you isn't the one that scored highest in a review. It's the one that fits your room, your primary use cases, and your budget, purchased at the right time from the right retailer with the right return policy in place. I hope this gave you that clarity. Every current price link for every TV I mentioned is in the description below. I update those as prices move so you're always seeing real numbers. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Research-backed, no sponsors telling me what to recommend, and no artificial urgency designed to push you toward a specific product. Drop a comment below. Which TV are you leaning toward after watching this? And what's your primary use case? I read every comment and I'll reply to as many as I can. And if this video saved you real money on your purchase, the Super Thanks button below is there if you want to support the channel. It goes further than you might think in helping me keep making content like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.